Hi, I'm Hobie1. This is Red Chair Reading. Well, no red chair today or tie. I'm on location in the beautiful Ansel Hoffman Park along the American River. Today I have Chapter 4 of the Black Book of Secrets. Let's go. Poetry and Pawnbrokers. Ludlow sat at the table shivering in silence while Joe tended the fire. A blackened kettle hung over the flame, and every so often Joe stirred its contents. "Would you like some soup?" Ludlow nodded, and Joe ladled the soup mixture into 2 bowls and set them down. The boy gulped his noisily in spilling overfull spoonfuls. "Where have you come from?" Ludlow wiped soup from his chin and managed to... Oh, for crying out loud. There go the geese. Wow! That was beautiful. Ludlow wiped soup from his chin and managed to whisper from the city. "From the city! From the city!" "From the city. I see, and do you wish to go back?" He shook his head violently. "I cannot blame you. In my experience, the city is a rotten, diseased place full of very worst of humanity, the lowest of the low." Ludlow nodded again and drank at the same time, with the result that the soup dripped onto his gray shirt collar. Without hesitation, he put the stained cloth in his mouth and sucked out the juices. Joe watched, unsmiling, but with amusement in his eyes. "And what did you do to the city?" In the city." Ludlow put down his bowl. The warming soup had brought life back to his frozen hands. "All sorts, really," he said evasively, and then, under Joe's intense gaze, he continued, "Though mainly I picked pockets. Your honesty is refreshing, Ludlow, but I doubt there'd be much of that sort of work here," said Joe dryly. "This is a small village. There's little to take." "I can always find something," said Ludlow proudly. "I believe you could," Joe laughed, looking at the boy thoughtfully. "Tell me, have you any other talents?" "I run fast and curl up so tight I can hide in the smallest places." Whether this impressed Joe or not, it was difficult to tell. "Useful, I'm sure," he said. "But what of schooling? Can you write and read?" "Of course I can," said Ludlow, as if Joe was a fool to suggest otherwise. If Joe was surprised, he did not show it. "Then let me see your skill." He rummaged through the pile on the table, then handed Ludlow a quill, a pot of ink, and a piece of paper. Ludlow thought for a moment, then wrote slowly in his plain, spidery hand, the tip of his tongue sticking out of the corner of his mouth. A poem. "The rabbit dose be a gentle creature. Its fur is soft, its tail is white. Under the sun a grass eater, in a burrow it doth sleep the night." He doesn't spell too well. Joe stroked his chin to conceal his smile. "Who was it taught you to spell? Your parents?" Ludlow snorted at the very suggestion. "My parents care not for the written word, nor for me. I was taught by Mr. Limbert Jellicoe, a pawnbroker in the city." "Limbert Jellicoe," repeated Joe. "How very interesting. Do you know him?" asked Ludlow, but Joe was busy looking for another sheet of paper. "Write this," he said, and dictated a couple of sentences, which Ludlow wrote carefully before handing back the paper to be examined. "2 bees in Zabadow," said Joe, "but you weren't to know that." He stood back and took a long, hard look at the boy. He resembled so many city boys, dirty and skinny. He certainly smelled like one. His clothes were barely functional, apart from the scarf and gloves, which were of a much higher quality. And he had a distrustful face that gave way the wretchedness of his past existence. He was bruised, and his mouth was very swollen, but there was a spark of intelligence and something else in those dark eyes. "I have a job for you if you want it." Ludlow's eyes narrowed. "Does it pay?" Joe yawned. "Let's discuss that tomorrow. Now it is time to sleep." He threw Ludlow his cloak, and the boy curled up in the space beside the fire. He had never felt such soft fur before, and it wrapped itself around his legs almost of its own accord. Ludlow watched through half-closed eyes as Joe stretched out on the bed opposite, his legs not quite fully extended, and began to snore. When he was certain that Joe was asleep, Ludlow pulled out the purse he had stolen from the carriage and hid it behind a loose brick in the wall. Then he took the paper and read it once again. My name is Joe Zabadow. I am the secret pawnbroker. A secret pawnbroker, thought Ludlow. What sort of job is that? But he did not ponder the question for very long before drifting off into a sleep full of wild dreams that made his heart race. That is the end of chapter 4. Thank you so much for watching my brand of insanity. Hope you're enjoying the book. Bye.